Hi y'all. I can promise you I never thought I was going to do this video, but I'm going to show you today how I get ready to go scuba diving. This is not an educational video. If you want to go scuba diving, get trained. It takes a lot to learn to do what I'm doing, but I'm going to show you the process of getting ready, and I'm going to get into the pool and show you. Now, this type of scuba diving I'm going to do, it's called Sidemount. It doesn't have a tank on your back. I'm going to have one on each side. So I'm going to show you how I get that ready, and it's taken me a good while to learn how to do this and get my gear set up, but now it goes really smoothly for me. And so here's the process. Now, last year, as I've mentioned, I came to an island in the Caribbean and I went diving for 6 months. And on those dives, I used 3 tanks, one on each side, and one across my chest. And my dives were more than 3 hours, as much as 5 hours on each dive. I went deep, I went long, and then I decompressed and stayed shallow for a long time, and I saw a lot of wonderful things. Usually, when we're getting ready to dive, we like to talk about philosophy. Today, I'm going to talk about diving. But I don't know why we talk about philosophy, but we do. So this is my left tank. This is a transmitter that's going to transmit the pressure in this tank to my computers. I use 2 computers when I dive because I do technical diving. And if one computer failed in the middle of the dive, I need the other computer to get me home and keep track of my decompression, as well as my depth and everything else. But here's my right tank, and it also has a transmitter, and I'll show you later how those 2 pressures show up on my computers. Now, these tanks have been tested, and when I dive, I usually dive a nitrox, which is an enriched oxygen mixture, and I use an oxygen mixture that's suitable to the maximum depth I'm going to dive. And I test it myself. I don't take anybody's word for what's in that tank, because if you get it wrong, you can be in a world of hurt or a world of death. So it's important that you know the concentration of oxygen when you dive. There's a lot of things that you have to learn when you do this kind of diving. Very rewarding, but it's important that you know what you're doing. It's important that you keep track of what you're doing. Now I use a mask, and when I dive, I take a second mask in the pocket with me, because if my mask failed, and that would be a very rare occurrence, well, that would make it very difficult to get home safely if you couldn't read your computer and see your compass. So what I just did to my mask is I put some sea drops in there. It comes from Gear Aid, and you will not find an affiliate link at the bottom of this video. You will also not find an affiliate link for the Deep 6 regulators that I use, and I really like them. And these are Deep 6 fins, and I even like their shirts. I like the people, but I'm not selling their gear. I did a lot of research, and this is what I chose. Now, these tanks are ready to go. And this is my rig. This is a Stealth Tech 2.0 technical diving side mount rig. And it has a weight spine down the middle. Along this back, there's pockets that spread the weight up and down your spine. I'm carrying 18 pounds, which is just a little more than I need. That's actually adequate to dive 3 tanks, but today I'm only got 2. But that weight is important because it's going to allow my wetsuit, which is very thick, when I go to depth, that wetsuit is going to shrink from the pressure, and its buoyancy will be reduced. And I will need to inflate my buoyancy compensator to make up for that. But at the same time, I'm breathing these tanks down. And as I breathe these tanks down, each one of them is going to lose 6 pounds of buoyancy. And if I'm carrying 3 of them, there's 18 pounds that I have to make up. Now that 18 pounds has other factors involved. I'm not teaching you how to weight your rig, but I'm gonna just show you. Oh, also, inside here is a personal locator beacon. And if I were lost at sea, I would be able to open this up and deploy this personal locator beacon, which would communicate with a satellite, which would communicate with a organization in the US that would look at the notes and say, oh, this person typically dives here, and he seems to have set off his personal locator beacon, and it will beam for 24 hours so that they can come find me. I never am going to see that in use, but I carry it. Also inside here is a burner phone. If I do end up coming out of the water in a place that I didn't expect to, I can open it up, call somebody up, and have them come pick me up. And I have done that quite a few times. Because, okay, here's the philosophy part. You can plan your dive, but the current's going to decide what you do. And sometimes the current's not what you expected, and you're going to end up someplace you didn't expect, and that's kind of like life. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish getting geared up and get in the water. All righty. Yeah, the wetsuit is also made by Deep Six. I don't believe they make those anymore. I'm very fortunate to have one because I really like it. It's the best wetsuit I've ever seen. If you get a chance to get one of these, snag it because they're not available anymore. They come with great pockets that are actually put on the gear at a location that's great for side mount. The tanks are here and you can still reach them, but they're far enough up that if you come close to the bottom in a cave situation or any kind of low clearance, you're not dragging your pockets. This I added. It's a relief zipper, and these wetsuits are so tight. They have such good seals that the relief zipper comes in handy, and we'll just leave it at that. All right, wetsuits, you enter from the rear. There are some that are different that you enter from the front, but that's kind of unusual, and I wouldn't want to own one actually. Wetsuits are not easy to get into, and this is a 7 mil. 7 mil is a lot thicker than you would need for diving in the Caribbean, unless you're diving 4.5, 5 hours, and then you're going to need it. When I was here for 6 months, I did a lot of eating. There's some really good restaurants here, and I lost 15 pounds because when you're underwater, you burn a lot of calories to maintain your heat. And so I was diving a 7 mil, which is a very thick wetsuit, and I still burned enough calories to treat myself to big meals all the time and still lose 15 pounds. I ended up underwater for 368 hours in that 6 months. It was an amazing experience. I hope to be able to do it again someday. But for now, I'm just here for a month, and I'll dive as much as I can. I like to dive solo, but I also like to dive with my wife, and I've got a few friends that dive this kind of diving also. And I like diving with them, but there's something about diving solo that just seems somehow safer. I'm responsible for only me. When I want to make an adjustment because of the conditions, I don't have to communicate my intentions because I'm only diving with myself. And that's a magical thing. It takes a lot of redundancy. You want to have backups for everything because you can't rely on the other person. We're almost ready. Now, while I'm gearing up, I'd also like you to take a look at this scooter. This thing is pretty amazing, and I think everybody's intrigued by them. This one is somewhere between a toy and an expedition scooter, but I'd say it's closer to an expedition scooter. I would not count on it in a cave, in the back of a cave, to get me out, but I think if you're in the back of a cave and you need to get out, you pretty much need to have two scooters in case one fails. Redundancy in everything. Now, I have forgotten my hood, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm only going in the pool for a little while. But typically I would have a hood that also came in. There it is. This is my inflator. I'll hook it up to this hose when I get in the water. This here is called a crotch strap. This is what keeps the rig. This is what keeps the rig from riding up on me. And it also gives me a ring to hook that scooter to. That scooter doesn't pull me by my arms. It pulls me from here, and I use one hand to guide it, control it. In Sidemount, when using these aluminum tanks, the aluminum tanks become buoyant as they get empty, and the back end of them starts to float up on you. So, when I start out, I'm going to be hooked to these rear rings, and then as they start to float on me, I'm going to hook them around into this one, and that'll keep them trimmed throughout the dive. This will tie my wing, and now I'm ready to go. On a typical dive, this is a tablet, so when I'm diving with someone else, I can write notes if I need to communicate beyond the hand signals we typically use. And in this pouch, I usually keep my spare mask. These are the two computers I use. This is a Shearwater Perdix. There's no link at the bottom for finding this, but Shearwater does make the best dive computers in the world. This is a Perdix. That was the first technical dive computer I had. And this other one is a Terek. It's a newer model. And even though it has a smaller screen, it is so much more clear that it's actually easier to read. Oh, how interesting. I'm making a video and I ended up putting my computers on the opposite arms from how I usually ride them. How's my time going on the video? 14 minutes so far. Well, I'm pretty sure I can be diving in 20 minutes. I didn't know I could do it while making the video, but here we go. I'll put that sea drops in here. It's an anti-fog. It's like a soap, but this one stays on pretty well. And then when I first get in the water, I rinse it just a little bit. And then don the mask. I start with my left tank because that's the one that has my inflator hose. I clip the bottom clip in first. And then I have these bungees. And the bungees wrap around and hook on the stem. And that action keeps the tank rotated up and around and holds it in tight to my side. This left short hose is held to me with a necklace. It's always available right there. And go with the right tank. It's a similar procedure, but it has a long hose. And the reason for the long hose is because I may need to share it with someone. And if I want to share it with someone, I can pull this other loop out, and they have a 7-foot hose, and they can swim along beside me, and they can breathe off this tank while I breathe off the other. Now, if you look on here, on my computer, you'll see that this tank has 92 bar and this tank has 94 bar. And it'll say the same thing on here. And because I'm down at a full tank is 200 bar, because I'm down around 92 bar, I know that I need to go ahead and move these clips around to the front, because these tanks are going to be floaty in the rear. So I'm going to go ahead and move them forwards. I'll start on the right hose. I'll always make sure that the hose is clear so that I can give it. And then, as I'm diving, I'll dive on the right hose, and when this tank goes down a little bit, I'll switch. I'll clip this off to my D-ring here, and I'll switch to the left hose. All right, let's see what it looks like in the water. I don't know if you could see what I was doing, but as you breathe in, your lungs expand. It makes you more buoyant and you can rise up. You can control your depth by how much air is in your lungs. You can make gross adjustments, mass adjustments, by adding air to your BC, but when you're in the near range, you can easily take care of it just with the volume of your lungs. Now, I guess I'll show you how I connect this scooter. This scooter is made by Dive Extra. It's called a Blacktip, and inside it are 2 DeWalt tool batteries, which means I can fly with this thing. You will not find an affiliate link at the bottom of the video, but these are great little scooters, and I think pretty much everybody that has one is grateful. And there was a pretty big waiting list for them when they first came out. This one is just slightly negative, which means if I let go of it, it will sink to the bottom, which is kind of good. And I can clip this on. I'm not going to be able to go far in this pool, but I can show you a little bit about how it looks. So it's out in front of me, and I'll tell you that this right here is because in the Caribbean, we have a big problem with lionfish. It's an invasive sea species that kills the reef fish. And when the reef fish aren't there to clean the reef, then the coral starts to die. So one of the things we can do to help protect our environment is to kill them as often as we can. If I kill them, I clip them into this double ender. There might be a moray eel that's kind of interested in those lionfish. And if they come along and want to get those lionfish from me, well, I can reach up and grab my cutter right here, and I can cut this line, and they can have my lionfish. I don't need them. All right, well, let me show you how that works. All right, y'all. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the comments say. I think I've enjoyed doing this. And if you're interested in this, go learn. Go take a course. Don't go dive one time. Don't go diving just a few times. Go make it a lifestyle, because it is a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. I didn't ever want to get involved in this. My wife talked me into doing this on an anniversary. She talked me into going to a Caribbean island I had no interest in going to, because I did not want to sit on a beach and read a book. I just thought that would be crazy. I'd just be wanting to go do something. And she talked me into trying this, and I had no interest in that because I didn't want to go fly someplace to have my hobby. Well, when you watch my videos about batteries, I know you often see the tanks in the background. Yes, that is a fill station for doing technical dive fills on my tank so that I can do technical diving at home. And the most wonderful thing about this is that I can do this with my wife, and it makes us connect in a way that we can't do on land. We're underwater in that aquarium and we're enjoying ourselves together, and we're equals underwater. And it's an amazing experience. You know, if I go backpacking in the mountains, well, she's struggling to carry that backpack and climb those big steps up the mountain. But in the water, she's my equal. We have a great time together. We spend a lot of time just giving each other hearts and just enjoying the time together. Let me know if you enjoy this kind of video, and please subscribe to the channel. I promise my next video won't be about scuba diving. Maybe it'll be about building. We'll see. I'll do it as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.